Kyber. Representing the casual obsession out here, you feel me? Listen. So I've been chilling out in Ebby. I just washed up on a ship. On the beach, some fool called Jeets is talking crazy. He's a trip. Thought I'd go hit the inn and grab some ale. Just kick it. Next I know Salimas is yelling, "Smite the wicked!" So this is how it goes round here. They want me fighting with no fear. Handing me a sword. Will I survive? It's not clear. Cause now they got me running down a crypt so hating rests. These traps can slap scary, get back, but hey, where's the crest? I'm grabbing scrolls, doing puzzles, and even killing rats. And spiders from the floor, yo, can't y'all get some cats? I'm guarding crystals from cultists, you know my weapons, they smoking. This Drexel hand is evoking, suspicion spells are being spoken. This is my adventure, it's my journey. All my trainers out here got me learning. With some gold I paid a friend called Byron. Monsters come around here, that boy Wylin in Korthos. Yo man, who really runs this place around here anyway? Mayor? What? Coin lords? Huh. I guess if they're paying, I'm playing, you feel me? Shoot. Yo, just a meathead out here. Straight out.
Hey, good evening. It's 8 o'clock here. We're kicking off the first episode on the DDO stream of Fixer Upper. The plan for this stream is to do this every Monday at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. Tonight I have a special guest joining me. It's one of my guildies from the Kyber server. His name's Tydal. Tydal, you there?
Hey, Greg, how are you tonight? Thank you for having me on. I appreciate it. I wouldn't say I'm special, but I definitely will fit the bill for sounding any questions that we might have on healing and clerics tonight.
Yeah, man. Hey, thanks for coming out, and thanks for giving some comments on healers. I know
Sure.
that talking builds is one of the most uncomfortable things for a lot of people to do in DDO, so one of the big goals of this stream in particular is to talk about builds, do some deep dives, have some comfortable conversations, but there's a lot about builds we're not going to cover, and we might get things wrong along the way. So as a follow-up to the stream, the plan is to post every build we cover on the forums. If you think we missed something, if we missed something in chat, or if you think you had a great idea how you can make the build better, please follow up on the forums. Tydal, can you tell us a little bit about your history with DDO and when did you start playing, man?
Sure. Yep. So I actually started when the game pretty much first came out, and was very, very active back when the level cap was 10, and the only raid in the game was, Vela. So, was very active at that point in time, and then continued to play for the next few years. And then, like a lot of DDO players, life happens and other games come through. And then I found myself taking a break for probably about 10 years. And then just recently, I would say maybe a little over a year ago, maybe a year and a half, kind of found some nostalgia and was like, hey, I missed that game, came back to it, and just kind of jumped right back in where I left off. And obviously, a lot has changed. I didn't know you or any of the other guildies, coming back into it. I was kind of just a solo player that ran into a few people I used to know, and I'm excited to be back and now doing all sorts of fun, cool stuff with the guild and in the game in general.
Awesome, man. Yeah, it's been great having you back. And actually, recently, Tydal and I had the chance to hang out with a bunch of the fine folks at Kyber and a bunch of the other streamers at PAX East.
It
So,
was a great time, absolutely. I had my first PAX, and it was just it was fantastic. I mean, the atmosphere was amazing. Meeting guildies in person for the first time, also very cool, and it was just a great experience.
so really quick before we dive into the first build we're going to cover, I did post on the forums this last week. Um, I gave an opportunity for anybody interested to post a crazy build idea. It doesn't have to be min-max. If you want it to be, go ahead and post it. We'll do our best to work it up for you. I actually have a lot of guests lined up, people who specialize in different types of builds, people whose play experience ranges from they just like raiding casually to folks who have pushed nearly every raid in the game on Reaper 10. So really take advantage of this. If you have an idea for a build, you're not quite sure how to flesh it out, go ahead to the forum post. I linked it here in chat. I'm new to the DDO stream, so I don't have the ability to pin it, but it's at the top there. If you want to click the link, feel free to submit a build. We'd love to dive into any idea that you have. So, Tydal, talk to me a little bit about the healer class, because one of the submissions that I got was a request for a first life healer build,
Hmm.
specifically Cleric. Any group difficulty, legendary hard, to R10 questing. If it has to be a healer. It can't rely on any past lives, no Reaper experience. And by the way, if we can fit in the tier 5 Exalted for the epic moment so we can turn everything in the game, go ahead and make that happen. So that's the build we're going to
Okay.
be talking about tonight. But I know you recently played one of the Cleric healers in our R10 Strahd push.
Yep.
Can you talk a little bit about that?
Sure. Yeah. So I've always loved being a healing class, and regardless of what game I'm playing, it's just one of those things that I find exciting. I mean, typically in a chaotic situation, you're watching 25 different things. Not only your own buffs but life bars and you're trying to make sure you get DIs in time and everything else. So it's to me it's one of the most exciting classes to play. It's also a very needed role. I mean, if you're talking you know high reaper pushes, like you have to have a dedicated healer, and the healer has to be pretty proficient in what they're doing, because again, with R10 and sometimes you get an unlucky reaper pool, it's a matter of life and death, and whether the party wipes or not. So to me it's always very very exciting. And to kind of lead into that, so the character I played in our most recent Strahd push is only a second or third life character. It's a cleric. Um, very few Reaper points. I think two past lives at most on it. So um, it can be done. I'll let everybody know that's listening that it is possible to do. Again, just work with your guildies, but there's some great builds. I think Greg put one on here on the forums. If you want to click the link, that kind of walks you through kind of what the steps and what you need and what you're looking for when you're putting this cleric together.
Yeah, I thought it was great because just a few weeks before that, there was also a post from Tronco on the forums
Yeah,
for a cleric build. Really, really solid stuff. He went for the hit points and the extra defenses. For our group, we had built out to fit Beck and Divinity in, just in case the card room went sideways. So, but his was a cleric build too. I was really encouraged to see more people playing cleric.
I heard it is your favorite class. Maybe I don't know if that's a rumor or not, but I've heard it is a pretty cool class.
I don't think I've ever mentioned that. So,
No, never, never at all.
um, Flame Shadow says, as someone who has healed a lot in raids and a fair amount in Reapers, when you start as a healer, do not try doing anything other than building for healing and survivability. Multitasking while healing is very difficult. I
Ab-
agree with that.
Absolutely, especially on high reaper. In fact, typically when you're doing high reaper or very difficult raids, yeah, you shouldn't be doing anything else unless it's buffing or debuffing, and just focusing on keeping people alive. That's the most important thing.
So I think the best approach and the one I'd like to take is just to assume that whoever's out there listening knows nothing. I know the audience is broad range. Some of them are going to know a lot more than us. Some of them might know less. So I think let's just take the approach as though we were explaining it to somebody playing DDO for the first time. What would you tell them about the cleric class? So let me go ahead and pull up a build here that I
Okay.
put together. And I'm using the DDO builder tool. So all right, great. You should be able to see that. Can you see my screen okay? Title.
No, I'm sorry. I can't see it here in Discord. Do you have the? Can you send me the link for the actual stream? That would be perfect.
Oh, okay, yeah. So it's just twitch.tv/DDO stream.
Okay. Did you put a link in the actual? Oh, I see it here. Yep, I
Yep.
got it.
Yeah, I did. So
Perfect.
what I'll go ahead and do is, if you want, I can share my screen in Discord if that's easier for you too.
No, I got it. I got it
Okay,
up now.
cool.
Perfect. Yep.
Great. So this is a first life cleric build. I did 28 point build because the post wasn't really clear about whether they or not they would have a 32 point build. I also didn't include any tomes for this build, so any tomes at all that you add in is going to add to the overall effectiveness. I will say that part of the challenge, they asked me to make it effective for turn undead at cap without a swap item. And my answer to that is it's not going to be ideal as both a healer and as an effective turn undead cleric without having an item swap. That's just my opinion. But
I think I agree with that, especially for, as a first life. Where you don't really have any past lives to kind of bump up those stats. Yeah, I think you kind of have to pick one or the other at least to start.
so let's dive in. Let's take a look at the feats first. I think that's an easy place to start. So I started with a human. I think with a low life character, especially being a first lifer, you're not going to have any ratio AP to really benefit from. And when you see my enhancement spread, I go pretty deep both into Radiant Servant as well as War Priest. I think there's a lot of benefit to both. So I actually think the extra feat from human is really useful on a first life character. So I picked up Quicken, Maximize, and then Follower of Orion, Follower of Faith. So the reason I picked up Quicken, so you don't get interrupted, obviously, while you're trying to heal the party. You're not really going to toggle this on though until much later on in the game when you have a broader spell point pool. And additionally, you're not going to need to quicken spells for healing. You're not going to get hit that much or that hard in combat at lower levels. Some people would actually argue to swap Empower and Quicken, which I also think is valid. Because the main reason I'm taking Maximize here is for the Cleric SLAs.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep. You're going to need to do some kind of damage in the early levels, and the SLAs are the way to do it with the cleric. So quicken and maximize definitely are helpful, even if you're just using the SLAs to level up.
Yeah, so Guacamole gave a comment. He says, "Hey, you're going to need to max out Charisma to get your turning ability up." That is absolutely true. Um, I haven't reposted to the new forums yet, but I'm about due. So I previously had released a guide in 2017 and then 2019, a Turn Undead guide. And if you look at the charisma table for your turn undead check, your bonus goes from a -4 up to a +4. As long as you're hitting 40 charisma, you can maximize that particular portion of the turn undead ability, but we'll get into that a little bit more later. I'll talk about stats here in a moment too, and why I decided to max out con instead of wisdom or charisma. But so when you're leveling up a healer build, do you prefer quicken or empower early on?
I mean, so if you're going to go pure healing build, yeah, I think I like empower to start. I think you get more bang for your buck out of empower, and if you have a decent constitution, you typically have enough. If you're getting hit by, as long as you're not playing on super high difficulty, the damage you're taking typically isn't enough to break your concentration. So now, again, that being said, would I start off with a cleric? Uh, I'm using SLAs, so as Guac mentioned, having those turned on as always on for those SLAs it makes the leveling process much easier, especially if you're not in a party.
Yeah, and Guacamole also comment toggled on just set healing spells to be quick and always on. I think that's a great point.
Yep.
Um, so just said I'd swap Empower Healing for Maximize. So I'm actually taking Maximize at level 1. I really like the benefit um, from the max SLA damage early on. I mean, you can solo pretty easily on a cleric between turn undead and your SLA spells, especially once you get Holy Smite. I
Mm-hmm.
feel like that's pretty much going to carry you through most of heroics.
Absolutely. Yep.
So why Follower of Orion? Well, that's going to give us a huge turn undead boost down here at level 6. So we're going to get a state that we can toggle on. It lasts for 144 seconds at cap. Basically, it's going to give us +4 wisdom, +3 spell pen, +2 to your effective level for turn undead, +4 maximum hit dice, and +4 to the total hit dice. So whenever you use the turn undead ability, and again, when I post this build, I'm going to, within a week, you have my commitment, I will post the updated turn undead guide in the new forums, and I'll link to it there in case you're not familiar with how this ability works. But whenever you use the turn undead button, the first thing the game does is it's going to see if you're able to turn anything in the range. And there's going to be a maximum number of hit dice you can affect. So that's per mob. So say you're up against a 32 hit dice zombie, but you can only effectively turn up to 20 hit dice, your turn check is going to fail. Um, the reason that's different from the total hit dice is maximum hit dice is for lack of better terms, the biggest thing you can turn. The total number of hit dice is the total number of hit dice among all the undead things in the radius that will be impacted by it. So again, it might be a little bit hazy to just kind of throw that explanation out there. I think it'll be clear if you read through the Turn Undead guide though. But the reason I wanted Oron's instruction is for the boosting the Turn Undead later on. Tydal, which deity feat do you prefer?
I typically like Ariane's instruction. I have used the one for the dagger before in the past too, um, because that was one of my primary weapons that fit with the I guess the item set I was using. For that, I think it was the blessed, what's the dagger called that drops out of Wizard King, that you can.
The Bejeweled Dagger.
Yeah, but I would use that and one of the other pieces to get the positive healing amp set on a high level cleric. So it worked out pretty well. But typically, I think Oren's instruction is probably one of the better ones that's available. One of the other things too, if you are new to playing cleric, is typically when you use a turn undead ability, you'll get a benefit based on what domain you pick. And this one then is nice too because the protection domain actually gives your allies a bonus to PRR and MRR, so it makes them take less damage, which is always important.
Yeah, that one's going to be huge. So if I wasn't going Orion for the deity feat, I would probably go soft host. And the reason why is when you get to this level 6 soft host feat, actually let me swap it really quick here.
Yeah, you can at least show them, yeah, so because that it does have a really nice ability there.
So it'll give you an ability called Unyielding Sovereignty, which basically is a full heal on any party member, and it removes a lot of the negative effects. The primary thing that it does, I think that's useful, especially in Reaper content, is it's going to remove instantly all their death penalties. So, if you're stacking up deaths and you have a melee or hopefully your tank's not dying, but if you're getting into real trouble, Unyielding Sovereignty can really help you change the momentum of a quest that's gone the wrong way.
Absolutely.
But they requested Turn Undead, so back to Orion we go.
I think Ariane's. I mean, yeah, I think it fits a lot of what you're trying to do anyway. Especially the +4 wisdom, is fantastic. So yeah, better healing. It's just it's a win-win for everybody.
With that being said, Flame Shadows pointed out Softhost is great, and having two of them is really great. I think that's true. When we go through Radiant Servant, you're going to see that we can actually pick up another Unyielding Sovereignty there, so we're not missing out on it by taking Orion's. The other thing is they don't share a cooldown, so if you grab it with the Deity Feat and in Radiant Servant, you actually have two that you can use at any time.
Yep, great call out there, Flame.
So I decided to go protection domain. You kind of talked about this already. So one of the huge things is that whenever you use Turn Undead, your entire party that's within range of that Turn Undead gains a divine bonus to PRR and MRR equal to twice your cleric level. So once you're level 20, that's giving everybody in the group 40 PRR and MRR, which is a huge benefit. The other thing I really like about Protection Domain is you get the shield effect, so you
Mhm.
don't have to constantly cast Night Shield on yourself. Um, and then you also get the Radiant Force Field SLA.
And
The
that's
reason
very difficult to come by in the game.
you can grab pots for that, but I mean having it on the bar is nice.
Yeah.
If you weren't going human and if you had some AP to spare, which on the first life build you're not going to, but going dwarf, you can actually get two separate Radiant Force Field SLAs, and one of them is actually usable in other party members as well. So, for those who don't know, the Radiant Force Field SLA, it causes you to take 25% less damage, especially useful on a first life healer build because you're not going to have a ton of hit points, especially without any Reaper points or tomes. So, I did take Empower Healing. How do you feel about the Empower Healing feat?
So again, if the focus of this build is purely healing an end game, for raids and potentially Reaper, yeah, I think Empower Healing is the way to go. Um, I know both Glassjaws and I think was it Guacamole kind of put in the chat, which are some great points. As you get more experience with the cleric, especially, and as you get to you know where you have past lives and Reaper points, it becomes less important to take. But I would say for someone who's still new to the game and is just going to be focused on healing, it costs less from a feat standpoint than just Empower itself. And I think if you go through is the Radiant Servant tree, you can actually get it. I think maybe it's the fourth tier ability where it becomes free, where you actually doesn't cost you any more spell points. So it's an added benefit without the spell point cost, which is even better.
Yeah, and Flame had pointed this out earlier, but as a cleric, you're going to focus a lot on your cure spells, especially your mass cures to keep the party going. Um, your mass cures are affected by maximize and power, a lot of your metas, but your heal spell is actually not impacted by those. It's only impacted by empower healing. So,
Yep, great point.
now quick note on that. So, favored soul, cleric, and druid all play very, very differently as healers. So, cleric has the option for a healing aura. You're all going to be incredibly disappointed, but I'm not taking that. I actually don't think that's the best option. I'll explain why when we get to enhancements. I'm actually going to focus in a lot on rotating through some of the mass cure spells. You get a ton of them, and you can actually really get great heals off of that by getting your spell power to the right place, especially if you're critting frequently and you have all the metas. Um, Favored Soul has the healing wall, which is superb because that's healing from a distance. I think a lot of people really like the beacons that Favored Soul has to offer,
Mhm.
and Druids offer the best healing over time that you can get. So, really, three different styles of healing. Which would you say is your favorite to play overall?
Now, that's kind of a loaded question. So I think my favorite class in game right now is the Druid. Now, that being said, because I do a lot of R10 content, and typically it's just myself and what we do. I duo a lot of R10 content with one other person who plays a barb. Um, Not only does it provide healing, but I also CC and do a little bit of DPS as well. So it kind of fills all those gaps for me. If you're looking for a total healer with survivability, cleric, I mean, can get a ton more hit points, a ton more PRR, MR than what a druid can have, at least as a caster druid. So I think there's definitely pros and cons to the different ones, but I mean, I think right now druid is still my favorite class.
Nice. All right. So titles banned. No, I'm just kidding. Cleric's obviously better. No, Cleric has been a meme for me for a long time, even when it
It has. Yep.
wasn't good to play, or some of the builds I play are probably not great. But all right. So next controversial choice is I did decide to take the mental toughness line. Not only are you getting additional spell points, but you're getting an additional chance for your spells to crit.
Yes.
It works out to an extra 3% crit chance. I actually think that's really good, especially since you're focused primarily on healing the party, keeping them up. As you're cycling through your cure spells, the crits are really important to me.
I tend to agree with this one, especially as again as if you're using this as a first life build, the extra spell points that you accumulate from this is pretty nice to have. I mean, because again, you typically don't have super high end gear. You don't have any Reaper points for those extra spell points. That you would get normally. So yeah, it definitely turns out to be quite a bit. So
I mean, there's other things that you do with that line, other feats that you could take to buff up some of your defenses, or um, you'll notice at level 18 here, for instance, I did take toughness. I wanted to fit in some extra hit points somewhere. When we start looking at the physical breakdowns on the character sheet, you'll see that at cap, I was only able to get to around 2,300 hit points. We'll talk about why that is. You can get closer to 3,000 even on a first life character, but I made some build choices based on my playstyle. Is there anything you can think of that we missed in the heroic feats that you would swap out the toughness for? And feel free to call it out in chat too, guys, if you think I missed something important.
what are your thoughts about switching toughness for like the one of the shield feats? Um, I can't think of what they're specifically called here, but it's one of the like the martial, yeah, not proficiency, but the and I don't know if maybe the stats would make sense or not. But yeah, shield mastery. Thank you. I can.
Yeah, you're right. That's actually a good change. So because we're getting the combat style, you're actually getting a few more hit points. So you picked up an extra 30 HP by knowing that. Good call.
Yeah.
Sin says, I do recommend switching to Favored Soul. You did miss that. Well, I mean, the specific request is for Cleric, but that's fair. We should probably do a Favored Soul build in the future as well.
we could, and we can kind of compare the pros and the cons of the two, and see if there's obviously there's a play style difference a little bit. So
So Guacamole says, make sure that you're swapping toughness for improved turn. I am taking improved turning down here. I don't feel great about it, and we'll talk about why. But basically, just to explain it, you get a combat style bonus to your hit points now whenever you take any of the combat feats, which Shield Mastery counts as one. So it's actually a little bit better than the toughness. I'm not going to be using a shield. Maybe that'll change. Maybe you'll convince me of some gear changes too. Um, I tried not to do a ton of raid stuff, but then I did want them to go a little overboard on Phillies and
yeah,
augments.
well,
They
we
said,
can look at that too. Yeah, I mean, we can kind of give some examples of what to start off with. If you're just building this as a first life, and maybe look for some gear out of Feywild or something that's more a little easier to get, and then kind of build it up towards what we would look at maybe after you've run a bunch of raids or whatever else.
yeah. All right, so epic spell power positive here. You're getting the positive spell power. You're getting extra crit damage for your healing spells at 10%. Intensify, same as the other metas. Now 25. I took elusive target. Elusive target is essentially a 5% dodge that stacks with everything else because it's a 5% chance to completely ignore damage. This goes into my playstyle with Cleric. I want you to have enough defenses that you can feel comfortable being somewhat in the mix with the party. Not only because you're using your cure spells, but also because of some of the other abilities that is going to help boost the party's damage. That's why I go so deep in the War Priest, along with the hit points. So I find a lot of value in Elusive Target. But what do you think? Is there anything you'd swap that out for?
It's not a bad one by any means, especially again, typically as a cleric. which is a little bit different than maybe a caster favored soul or a caster druid. Is you tend to be in more up where the melees are anyway. Um, so there's a better chance of you being hit, physically, in combat because you're kind of really, up in where the damage is happening. So I think that's not a bad pick by any means. Just out of curiosity, what are our other options there? Because I think um, looking down at like 30, 31, and 32, I was curious to see if you took legendary toughness since we do have the con for it. I think if we're putting some level ups into con, is that correct?
Yeah, no, I took Dreamscape, and the reason I took Dreamscape is because as a cleric, as the healer, you don't want to get the aggro.
That's true.
And
Yeah.
this is kind of an emergency. I need to get away and let the party reestablish aggro button.
Okay.
Obviously, as long as the tank and the healer survive, the party should be fine. So that was my general thought process there.
It's interesting. You're definitely not. I mean, I don't disagree with you there. It's just I haven't seen that used at 31 before. I typically would want to take just a legendary toughness since we're going to have the con for it anyway. But they both provide extra survivability, so I don't think it's the wrong choice by any means.
At level 27, this is an epic feat level. I did fit in the improved turning. All this really does is give you one level of cleric, and on the turning, you're gonna want to fit in a large sacred bonus and a large hallowed bonus. And I'll talk about my strategy for turn undead and heroics, and then also at endgame. I'd be willing to swap this out for something, especially because I think you're still going to be in a situation where you're going to need to swap to a turning stick. If you look at your turn undead stats here, your turn undead level is only 54. So if you're running Reaper 10s, like maybe you'll turn some things in Ravenloft, but anything newer than Ravenloft, I don't think you're going to land a turn undead with those stats. Um, then I took Wellspring of Power.
I think that's a good one to have. I mean, it's again for if you're looking to pump up your healing or anything else, it's good for 30 seconds. So if you're
Yep.
a specific phase of a boss fight or a raid where you need extra healing, that's kind of like a nice little button to be able to pop on there.
And then the last thing I took was Sciona Celestia as the Scion feat. This is going to give you more positive spell power. It's also going to give you additional crit damage as well.
And hit
And
points.
and I was going to say, yeah, and 150 hit points plus the will saves that you're missing.
Yeah.
Okay, so I don't think there's a lot of controversial stuff there, but hey, once again, we are going to post this on the forum, so if you think you can make it better, please do. Absolutely. Yeah, so Flame Shadow says swap um, improved turning with epic toughness. So let's try it that way, but then let's actually take the greater shield mastery and see if that's actually better. Oh, you know what? I swapped toughness out, so we would have to take just a regular toughness.
Yeah, if that's the case, I think you're definitely better off with the greater shield mastery there. Because I think because the epic toughness is, as Flame was saying, is 50 hit points, but the regular toughness does not give that. So I think greater shield mastery is going to be the way to go there if we're continuing with what we have right now,
Yeah, so
or improved. I'm sorry.
improved shield mastery would definitely net out to more hit points. Now we're up to 2400, which is a little bit better. Yeah, so um, I I ultimately don't think it's gonna make that big of a difference, especially if you're gonna swap items, and we can show that later when we get to the equipment. So let's talk a little bit about the enhancements.
Greg, real quick, I know we before we did that, going back to the feats. I think I don't know if we just skipped over it, but I did want to kind of clarify the reasoning behind enlarge. I don't know if you want to talk a little bit about why that's beneficial in some areas.
Yeah, no, thank you. I did skip right over it. So enlarge allows you to hit the party members that aren't with the group, specifically your casters, your ranged people. I know when you're running raids like Skellies, you're going to have people that are spread out all over the map. and it's really, really useful for the healer to have abilities that they can still hit those players with. So I love Enlarge um, for most casters that I play.
Yeah, I agree. It's definitely nice to be able to, again, depending on what your role healing. I mean, sometimes Greg or I will solo heal, and trying to keep your eye on 11 other people who are kind of running around all over the map. It makes it easier to target someone without having to run towards them and run away from somebody else who might be a high priority party member to keep alive.
Sin just brought up a great point too. There are certain races that allow you to start with a higher charisma. So if you were going to be specifically turn undead focused, you can swap to a different race. Now, personally, if you're going to go a little heavier on the racial traits and abilities and focus on turn undead, I would recommend Morning Lord. They have Bane of the Restless, which is going to give you a +6 bonus to your turning stats, and I think that is a great way to go, especially for a first life cleric. All right, cool. Let's go ahead and let's look at enhancements. So I don't have anything in Divine Disciple, so why the heck is it here, Greg? Well, I have Divine Disciple here because this is going to be the main tree that you're using as you level this build up. It's not a ton of fun to play a healer build or a tank build, especially in heroics,
Yeah.
where people don't typically need you in that role. So I would typically just take all of the boosts for your SLAs, all your light power boosts. I would level it up in Divine Disciple and then just reset this tree and swap it out to War Priest when you get to cap. You can build out the Radiant Servant tree as you go as well. I didn't really take a ton in Human, and that's because the AP spread is just really, really thin.
Yeah, it really
Um,
is. When you're trying to dabble into, War Priest and Radiant Servant, because there's great stuff in both.
Yeah, it's been a while since I did an 80 point build, and it's tough to fit everything in.
Hmm.
This was also assuming no tomes, so no racial tomes, um, no universal tomes, nothing. This is just a first life character. You know what? I just naturally spent two in the racial tree and one in the universal tree, assuming those tomes. But as I was adding up the AP just now, I realized there's no reason to do that. I'm just gonna do a quick glance. I don't think I actually skipped out on anything, so I would do this. One of the things I like about human is the ability to temporarily boost stats. And because human both has a spell power action boost, and then while I'm using that, it'll also boost my charisma. It's going to add to both my healing and my turn undead, which are two of the signature abilities that I wanted to focus on. So I'm actually comfortable with the way this looks now. Um, so why did I make these choices? Well, in Radiant Servant, you're going to get the positive crit spell damage. You're also going to get the ability to boost the caster levels of your positive energy spells. This is one of the things where I feel like Dungeons and Dragons and DDO in general can be a bit confusing because there's a difference between caster level and spell level. So when you're looking at the metamagics, for instance, Heighten will increase the spell level, which increases the DCs, whereas any type of damage or healing spell is going to increase the caster level, which is going to increase the amount of damage or healing that it does.
Well put.
Um, this is also, again, just maximizing the caster level of your positive energy spells. This is going to make your cure spells, especially your lower level mass cure spells, hit a lot harder. The other thing I like to take, I actually like the efficient metamagics. I find if you stack enough of these up, both in the enhancements and in the destinies, it makes a huge difference to your spell point pool.
Hey, Greg, real quick on the
Yep.
efficient empower, you may not need that Can you scroll down to the Radiant Servant core enhancements for me? I think if you look at the fourth one, I think, yeah, one of those I think makes it. There you go.
It's not free. It just
Oh, it's not free.
increases.
It
Yeah,
gives you more spell power. That's okay.
yeah,
I thought
correct.
there was one that made it free, but I guess not.
You can also reduce it in Exalted Angel. So when we look at the
Okay,
destinies, you'll see there.
got it,
Um,
got
I did take the positive energy shield. This one's a little bit nice because it gives temp HP, but not just temp HP, but it allows your heals to hit those characters a little bit harder. The temp HP are equal to your heal skill. So, if you're boosting to a heal skill of, say, 100, it's not that many hit points if you're running Reaper. But if you're running like Legendary Hard, you'll probably notice a difference with the extra defensive stats that you're giving out. My note to the devs would be, if I could get them to change something about Radiant Servant, make this a timed effect that, hey, if they're within range of this positive energy shield for the next 20 seconds, people will receive that 10% extra heal amp.
That's a good suggestion.
So you'll see that we picked up the other version of Unyielding Sovereignty, picked up some Wisdom score just to broaden the spell point pool again, and then you'll see we
Extra
also.
turns there too as well.
Well, I was going to cover the turn stuff last here.
Okay, sorry, didn't mean to
So
jump the gun there.
no, no, it's okay. I get excited about Turn Undead too. Um, Positive Energy Burst is nice. This is another 1% positive energy spell crit chance. And then this is also a mana-free turn or healing ability for everybody in a radius. Um, you also get a Cure Moderate Wounds SLA. It's 4 spell points, well worth the cost. Nice to have in the spell rotation. So what I didn't take is I didn't take the positive energy aura. And this is the set it and forget it heal of the cleric class. Um, I know that they just took the aura out of EA. Controversial opinion, I actually don't prefer the aura compared to other options. Flame Shadow says I would probably swap the points in Human Tree for the Divine Health and the last one for the Fey Dark Core extra spell power rather than the action boost Charisma. Yeah, I think the fact that I can get both positive spell power and 2 Charisma, which is going to help out my turning, I think I like that better for this particular build, but I think that that's also good feedback, Flame. So looking at Turn Undead, you have improved turning. It gives you additional turns per rest. It also gives you an extra 3 levels to your turning ability, and you can turn an extra 6 hit dice of total mobs that can be turned. This is pretty important, but the most important Turn Undead ability you will take is this one right here. It is Radiant Servant Mighty Turning. If you do not have this, you will not be happy with Turn Undead. You're going to wonder why you always stun stuff and never kill it. This is why. Um, in order to successfully destroy undead under the core mechanics, you have to be able to turn twice their hit dice in terms of your max hit dice turned. This Mighty Turning takes that away. It slashes the number of hit dice that you need to turn in half, and then if they would be cowered, instead they are just straight up destroyed, which is nice. Um, that last note, if they're immune to instant death, they'll be affected as a normal turn on attempt instead. That's actually only recently working in game. Up until recently, if you turned something and it was immune and it wouldn't get destroyed, it wouldn't cower either. But Tonquin actually fixed that, I believe, 2 or 3 updates ago. So now that is working right.
Yep, and Guac put a nice note in chat there that Energy Burst is an SLA for meta magic, so they could be affected by the meta magic that we picked earlier on in the build.
And that's a great point too, that your burst is and all your healing spells are useful not only as um, things to heal the party, but also great undead destroyers as well, especially in
Yeah,
heroic content.
absolutely. Yep.
And then you have endless turning. This does stack the regeneration rate with what you're going to get later out of your destiny. So, in my opinion, it is worth taking. They're going to regenerate 30% faster, so that way you get lots and lots of turns. At cap, I don't know how many this build would have, but my main, when I'm built for turning, has well over 40 turn undead uses. So you get a lot.
Yep.
And now we're going to dive into War Priest. So why the heck do you want to take War Priest on a healer build? And my answer for that is two reasons. One, much better defenses, and two, you're going to increase the party's damage output by a ton.
Yeah, significantly.
So the first ability you get is Sanctuary. Sanctuary is going to give you an extra 20 PRR. Notice that's a sacred bonus, so it actually stacks with the divine bonus from your deity feat. So you're able to boost your PRR by 60, which is not insignificant. The next thing you're going to notice is that in the fourth core, you're going to gain 10% sacred bonus to your HP, which is the only reason the HP is up over 2k right now. And there's also hit points in the tree, and what I feel is the best uh, cleric ability in the game, and that's Divine Intervention.
Yeah.
Divine Intervention prevents people from dying. If their hit point would drop below their unconscious range, instead they're warded. It will drop to -9, and then it will automatically heal them and bring them back up once. Couple really cool things about Divine Intervention. Um, so it lasts long enough that you can actually have it active on 2 targets at a time. So you can keep it on the tank and also on yourself as the healer in case of emergencies. Um, Divine Intervention also works on other effects in the game that would otherwise instantly kill a character. So a couple examples of that are one, in the Shroud, when you get to the puzzle rooms with the wall that moves, if you have
Mm-hmm.
Divine Intervention, you can play in the wall all day. You don't have to worry about dying. Another great example is in Strahd. If you would otherwise get gripped and die, you actually will not die to the grip as long as you have Divine Intervention running. It's a great ability.
I think it also prolongs your ability to survive when jibsing, which or using black-bladed jibbers. So yeah, that's kind of a. You still
Yep,
take more and more damage, but it does prolong your ability to if you were needed, a longer amount of time to get to a shrine or whatever.
100%. So actually, if you have high enough spell power, you can keep yourself alive with harm as long as you have Divine Intervention for as long as you need to with the jibs.
Yeah.
So some of the things I like. Now you're gonna notice I spent a lot of points here with stuff that you're probably like, man, this is completely unnecessary. I really wanted to get to the capstone in this. Um, the reason why is because it gives you a special ability. I'll get to that in a second. First, I want to cover all the ways you can boost party damage. So the first thing is you get a smite attack, and you're not going to be constantly meleeing targets. Your main focus is heals. But once you get really comfortable with that, your smite is actually going to be a source of vulnerability for the party. It's really easy for you to rush in. Once the tank has aggro, lay a smite down and help the party get some extra damage that way. Um, Defensively, you also get a magic backlash. So if an enemy casts a spell at you, there's a 30% chance that they're going to be knocked down. Obviously, it doesn't work on bosses. Um, you also get this ability here. It's called Inflame. Inflame is nice.
Flame's
So
great.
the +4 AC might not be anything to write home about, but you're adding +4 to your party's damage rolls. This is huge. You'll notice I also took Greater Inflame, which is going to give your party a 15% bonus to their absorption of all elements, and that actually includes Sonic, which is great. Oh, guy said my video just froze. Everything looks good on my end, so sorry about the video freezing. Not sure what's going on with that. Oh, he said, never mind, it's back. All right. So +4 damage here. You're stacking vulnerability on target. That you're going to get the capstone, and the capstone is implacable foe. Um, this is a 10% bonus to the damage of any of your allies who are within range of this. So as long as you're positioned really well, a lot of times both your melees and your ranged can actually benefit from this. It's just a really, really great ability, especially when you start parry boost, um, like your crusade patches or time stops from another person in the party.
Yeah, it all adds up. It definitely does.
Yeah, so Flame Shadow's making a great point here. So, 4 flat damage might not seem like a lot, but you talk to some endgame melee players, and they'd give their left arm to get an extra 4 flat damage. Once you multiply it by your melee power, your range power, your double strike, your double shot, and then your crits on top of it, it actually makes a really big difference in your damage.
And then
So
one more thing, Greg. If you want to go back up to the top of the tree next to Divine Intervention, I did want to point out. So if you are wearing heavy armor, if you go right next to DI, if you're wearing heavy armor, there's a real easy way to get an extra 10 MMR, AC, and PRR. But in addition to that, you get a 20% comp bonus to maximum hit points, which is not anything to sneeze at by any means.
yeah, so this tree was giving us an extra 30% to our overall hit points. So right now we're showing a first life cleric build. When we were running Strahd, um, we were running Razor Claws for the rage, and with our rage running, we were hitting a little over 7,000 hit points. So it's quite nice. Other than that, again, a little bit more defense here, some additional PRR. Just real quick to cover some of the defensive stats, by the way, you're going to see here I'm at 256 PRR, but you have to remember you can boost that by 60. So, effectively when you need it, you can be over 300% PRR. This is a first life cleric build, so it's pretty good in terms of the damage reduction.
Absolutely.
All right. We have just over 30 minutes left, so let's go to the Destiny now. All right, the Destiny is a bit of a hodgepodge, and I really struggled with this because I really don't want to take the top tier in EA, and my builder's outdated, so this is the old version. This is the pre-Turn Undead version. Um, I really personally prefer to get the extra quality bonus to hit points from Unyielding and all the other defensive abilities, or Beckon Divinity, which is if you have a Gibber's Blade, is a mass res for the entire party.
Yep,
But
that could be a raid saver right there.
Raid Saver, R10 Saver, it's a really easy recovery mechanic. If you were going to take a first lifer into something and make them feel worth the while, I think Beckon Divinity alone, along with Solid Heals, would earn you a spot in most groups. But um, yeah, so let's go through what I picked here. So I did take a little bit in Divine Crusader. I essentially just took enough to boost the Crusade patch.
Yeah, that's huge.
Um, I love getting Crusade. It gives you an extra 10% damage. It also, I mean, it does minimal damage. I don't think on a first life character you're going to see noticeable damage to enemies from it. Um, but it also, again, is going to give you a boost to your PRR and MRR, and your allies are going to get good healing off of this. Uh,
Absolutely. Yep. Just another form of cheap healing for a group of your melees typically.
Yeah, Flame just made a good point. We were talking about Gibbers. He said if you can get a Gibbers blade, Beckon is much better than without. It's still good without it, though. I mean, I would argue without Gibbers, there's probably not as much point to have a Beckon Divinity, um, depending on your party comp. But because somebody else is going to have to get a res off on you. That's already 2 of the 6 up. So but I love Crusade. I love Consecration. To me, this is your set it and forget it heal on a cleric.
Hmm.
It it's not quite as much healing as the healing wall, but it's pretty good. So I actually do use consecration and skellies. So right when you're on the skull part, everybody hops off the platform. I'm able to drop a consecration. The party gets enough heals from that to survive through the flames, through the skulls being taken down, and I'm able to focus heal the tank. The other thing I did is I grabbed a little bit out of Unyielding Sentinel because I didn't need to take everything in EA, and I just really wanted the extra hit points, and I wanted to pick up another healing ability. So I picked up Renewal. Renewal is another heal over time ability. I think it's really solid, especially because it does benefit from your Empower Heal, your Quicken, and your Enlarge. So if somebody starts dying across the map, I think it's a really easy way to keep somebody up without having to completely shift focus just to heal that person. And then finally we get to EA. So EA, people are probably not going to agree with my choices, but that's okay. If you can make the build better, go ahead. Um, I like all the cores. I like that every time that I use my um, angelic charge, people are getting heals off of that.
Yep.
The angelic form, I know there was so much controversy with the healing aura being taken out of here, but I like the new fire and light damage, and I'm currently playing through Dragonlord Live, so when I'm done with that, I have an idea for a survivable caster build that takes advantage of some of that damage. So we'll see if that's any good.
Not to mention the additional turns here, as Greg kind of brought up before. But here's another source of additional turns, which is great, and turn regeneration.
Yeah, so not only do you get additional uses, but at the third rank, because we took. Oh, this is why I was taking improved turning, because it's actually going to add a little bit here to Bane of Undeath. Um, it's going to give you some additional bonuses there because you had that. So we might want to swap that back in.
Okay.
But no, you know what? I still feel no. I feel it's better to just build a swap item with filigrees. Filigrees are easy to flesh out and build out a set if you need it. And then the endless turning, as you pointed out, that 30% stacks with the 30% from Radiant Servant, which is really, really nice. Indiana said that she agrees with our comments on Gibbers, but it does rely on having another healer because the healer is, of course, going to die when their Gibbers runs out, which is a great point. All right, so I like to take the healing abilities here. I like the healing pillar. I think having the mass cure moderate wounds SLA is really nice.
That's a really nice one to have.
Um,
Absolutely. Yep.
it's a super cheap heal. Between all the you have 4 different SLAs for healing, and they're all wicked nice. Chain Cure, people hated this spell because everybody says I can never get it to work. And I described how I got it to work, and I think it's fine, and everybody hates it. But if you target somebody and they're jumping around a lot, if you time it to hit it as they're landing, it will go off, it will hit them, and it will hit everybody near them.
And I
Alleged,
think it's. Go ahead, Greg.
I was gonna say allegedly there's some targeting changes that happened with that a few updates ago, but I was using Beckon in our Strahd push, so I didn't have Chain Cure for that build.
I think they said that they did get it fixed finally. I think they changed like the targeting to like the quickest possible setting, and they found that the targeting issues were mostly resolved. And I think Flame actually said
Great.
that. Yeah, I think Flame said the same thing.
Hey, what's up, Cozy? Thanks for the alert. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Please stick around because after this stream, Cozy's going to be streaming next, so stick around. Check her stream out. Blessed Water is actually another bonus then to your Turn Undead attributes, and it actually adds +3 to all the Turn Undead attributes. And again, I'm going to explain all that. I'm going to break it down in an updated Turn Undead guide. Give me about a week or so, I'll get that up, and I think that'll make a lot more sense. I did take the improved Intensify. Um, it basically reduces it to 0. This is where you can get um, the Empower Healing that reduces it to 0, but because I already reduced it by 4 in the Radiant Servant tree, I took the reduction of Intensify instead.
That makes sense.
And then you can also reduce the cost of Maximize here. Maximize is the best meta magic in this slot, in my opinion, because you get the biggest spell point cost reduction of 9 points versus Empower, which I believe is only 6.
Correct.
So, there we go. Anything you would change on these destinies? I mean, I know some people would not like these same choices. Um, I I didn't feel great about it either, but I really wanted to get to the epic moment because part of the point was to be able to use Turn Undead on anything, which I agree is awesome and amazing, but it lasts 20 seconds, so I don't know. I don't know how I feel about that one.
Yeah, the only thing that I think you might run into a small issue with, which again I don't think is a major issue, but I will bring it up, is so as a cleric, if you're focusing mainly on wisdom as your primary stat, constitution, or if you want to swap those out as whichever one you want to take as primary, and then charisma. A lot of time as a first level cleric, you have a really hard time hitting anything. So even in late heroics or early epics, if you're equipping a weapon to try and hit something with some of these abilities, like your smite, for example, Greg, a lot of times you're not going to have enough to hit to get there, even with a smite or something along those lines. So just something that I would kind of keep in the back of your mind that you're not going to be running around killing stuff with a weapon typically with this build.
Yeah, no, I think that makes sense. Yeah, when I mentioned taking the smite, I mean you're literally running in, smacking it to give the Vaughn, and then you're getting out of there
Yes,
again.
exactly right. Yep.
One of the other things that I did take, I forgot to mention, was the Divine Energy Resistance,
Great,
um,
great spell.
which is just amazing for helping your party survive, especially if you start running Riding the Storm Out. I recommend everybody runs Riding the Storm Out at least once or twice a week. Put it in all your raid runs. It is one of the most fun raids in the game. All right, so I think that's it for Destinies. Let's look at the equipment. I just want to keep an eye on the time. I don't want to go over our time slot here. So my approach to gear, a little bit different. I start with a lot of the set bonuses. So for instance, I knew that I wanted to hit decent spell power crit chance, and crit multiplier. And so a lot of my choices were informed by trying to fit in the artifact, the profane, and the different bonuses that I wanted. Um, when we start talking about gear, though, I feel like even as a first life character, I feel like there's a few pieces of gear that you should try to farm out, you should try to get. And this is for everybody. Some of them are a little bit more chase than others. So, Tydal, what's on your list? What are your must-have gear items?
I mean, I think as a cleric, I mean, probably most importantly, the gem of many facets, and I know it's very hard to get, let alone a gem with one set of gear that you want or one of the item sets, but to get a perfect gem is even more difficult. Um, but I like the Elder's Knowledge set. I think for a two-piece set, the extra spell crit chance and the extra spell damage is pretty important. And for a two-piece set, it's not hard to farm out.
Yes, I went back and forth on exactly which ways I wanted to fit the sets in because there's about
Hmm.
5 different ways.
There's a lot,
And
yes.
so, thinking more broadly, though, there are a few things that I'd like to fit in to every build. These are swap items. So we mentioned the Jib's Blade earlier. That drops
Mhm.
from the Legend of Two-Toed Tobias. I find that if you include Two-Toed in your daily epic runs and you run with guildies or you put a party up, you will see a Jib's Blade about at least once or twice a week. And when I say that, everybody's going to send hate mail because people are like, I ran it for years, I never saw a single one, but I don't know. Like, I find that I run it with Grace all the time, and we end up getting Jib's Blades and we can't take them because they're exclusive and everybody already has one. So yeah, see, Indiana's on my side. She goes, yeah,
Right?
Jibs drops way more now. I feel. I feel like that too.
uh,
Um,
I'm gonna agree with Guacamole on this one here, as I still don't have a Jibs on Volk, who is my healer. So yes, I've run it quite a bit, and I have not seen one yet. So maybe I'll need to get into those groups with you and Grace then, where you
Yeah,
guys are
we'll
seeing
run
all
it
the
with you.
extra ones drop.
We're gonna get you a Reaper boosted one. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, see, Flame says I have one Jibs on all of my tunes. That's actually true. I have one on like 5 different characters. So, including alts I don't play that much. So, Indiana says same. LOL. See, you're in the minority here. You're spending
I
too much
apparently right.
time getting past lives and Reaper points. You got to focus on that Jibs grind for a little
That's
bit.
right.
Um, I like to get spell absorb on every character.
Oh,
So
good. Okay.
there's a couple low hanging fruit pieces there. One is there's the jeweled cloak out of Giant Hold.
Yep.
If you, I always mix up the names of those first 2 quests in there.
Trial by Fire, and I think is it Maze of Madness? I think are
No,
the
no,
ones.
no. Yeah, I think it's Trial. I think you're right. I think Trial is the one that it drops from.
I think
Uh,
it's 2. I thought it was 2 that it could drop from, but
you,
I could be wrong.
you know what? We're gonna go to the wiki.
All right. See what it says here. But yeah, the Jewel Cloak. I know several of our guildies were not, including myself, was not a giant believer in spell absorption when I first came back to the game, and Greg has done a great job at changing my mind into the importance of spell absorb, especially in very high difficulty quests, Reaper quests and raids. It can be the difference between life and death.
So you can have one regular version and one epic version. They are exclusive. This is under the old system. It does drop out of Maze or Trial. The reason you see a min level 23, 24, 25 is because it's the version that drops on normal hard elite. Do yourself a favor, run Maze and Trial on elite. You get 25 charges. So there's a lot of different spell absorb items in the game. One of the differences is some of the items, like these cloaks, take away 1 charge per spell. Other items, like the Pale Lavender Ion Stone, a lot of times take away 1 charge per level of the spell. So it can actually deplete really, really fast compared to the cloaks. I do think the cloak's easy to get. There's also the House Fjarlin Mirror Cloak, and you can have both an epic and a legendary version. Between just those items, you're going to have around 50 charges of spell absorption. If you're going into any type of Reaper runs, if you see a Venji Reaper, put on your spell absorb item. It'll help you survive the.
Great tip. Yep.
There's actually a lot of places throughout DDO where people think it's really, really tough. And then if you just put spell absorb on, it's actually quite easy because you take 0 damage. So Guacamole says, for turning, I actually use random gear. I look for silver flame items to give a plus bonus to Hallowed and Sacred. Yeah, that's pretty good.
Yep.
So I'm going to go into this gear. Oh, one other thing that I think every caster should have. It's way easier to get than it used to be, and that is the Ring of Spell storing out of the Sands of the Manectarin. You can actually trade the antique bronze tokens in to get the base version, and then you can have both an epic and a legendary version of the Ring of Spell Storing. That's going to give you 8 free major mnemonic pots per long rest or per shrine, and that's going to extend your spell point pool. Um,
Absolutely.
3,600 spell points, though, isn't that shabby.
No,
So
not too bad, especially for again first life with no Reaper points or anything else. That's not bad at all.
you shouldn't run out at cap. I mean, you want to see that number closer to 5K, but unless you're in an extended raid fight, you're not going to be running out.
And keep in mind you're using a lot of SLAs and cheaper, like your Crusade, your mass SLAs. So a lot of times you're healing everybody to full with a 5 or 10 point spell. So your spell points tend to go a little further on a cleric than they do with some other classes.
So if we don't get to cover the entire build, I'm going to post the entire build to the forums right after this stream. Please feel free to comment, make changes. I will link to it from the original post about the stream, but I will post it as a separate build in the build section under clerics. Um, so yeah, so Flame brought up a good point. So he mentions the Gem of Many Facets is great because you can actually, in addition to rolling the right bonuses, you can actually craft on it as well if you disjunct it for crafting. I would say there are two turning bonuses that you want to have throughout the game. If you don't have a crafter, feel free to hit up Griglock on Kyber if you're on the Kyber server. I will totally craft this for you. Just might ask you to farm some of the ingredients with me. But you can buy a trinket in the store and craft Silver Flame and Eternal Faith on it. They are both great effects for Turn Undead. So Silver Flame is going to give you an additional 6 hit dice on mobs you can turn, and Eternal Faith gives you an additional 2 levels on your Turn Undead ability. Both of those stack with your Sacred and Hallowed
right?
abilities. Yep.
Yep.
And when I do post, so you can, if you can navigate the old forums, I struggle with that, but if you can navigate the old forums still, you can find the old guide that I posted for Turn Undead. It has all the bonuses there, or you can wait for the updated version in a week or so, and you can check that out. While we're here, because it is craftable, I also fit in Insightful Wisdom here. You're not going to be DC casting. You're not going to be trying to CC mobs on this build. You're just not going to be able to get there. The main reason you want Wisdom is because it's going to fuel your spell points. Flame Shadows is mentioning that there is more spell absorb in the game. Absolutely right. So you have the Crystalline Gauntlets, you have the Pale Lavender Ion Stone, you also have the two-headed Platinum piece. You also have Scarabs of spell absorption that you can get. I mean, there's lots of spell absorb. I think just having the cloaks will be enough to get you through Reaper questing and especially legendary hard raids. If you start wanting to push raids, which I don't know that you're really going to do on a first life build as a healer, but that's when you would really want to have a lot more spell absorb. If it's a character that you're building as a first life healer and you plan to play it long term, I would say you won't regret investing in farming out spell absorb for the character. So going through the gear really quickly here, I did grab a perfect gem because it wasn't in the criteria for me that I couldn't make them farm out great gear for their first life character. So this one has Oasis of Morality and Elder's Knowledge, and you're going to complete those bonuses with the Elder's Focused and the Bejeweled Letter Opener. So first I'll show you what those bonuses do. Oasis of Morality is artifact bonus to positive spell power, positive crit chance. It also gives you fort bypass. That's not really going to do anything for you. And then the Elder's Knowledge is going to give you a universal bonus to your crit chance, and then a 15% legendary bonus to your spell crit damage, which is quite nice. The Elder's Focus is going to give you efficient meta magics for your enlarge and your extend. So you're going to have the enlarge feat. You're also going to get wizardry there for spell points. Illusion Focus isn't really doing anything for you, but it's giving you the set bonus, some reduced spell point costs, and some extra spell points. I'm not going to go through the augments here. You can pick those apart on the forums. I think we're going to run out of time here, so I'm just going to go quickly through some of the other gear choices. I did pick up the Bejeweled Letter Opener. I know you mentioned that as well, Tydal. So ignore everything on here other than the efficient meta magic and power healing, which actually will stack with what you took from Radiant Servant, and the Oasis of Morality. So the devotion that you're getting from that is 146. In your offhand, I actually have you wielding the Malleable Scepter of Devotion, which is also going to stack onto that Insightful Devotion 71. Some other ways that you could go here is you can do a Loric Levic set, which would give you a large shield, and it would change your bracers and your necklace. At which point you'd have to swap the helm. Becomes kind of a house of cards,
Yeah,
and you have to realign all of the gear. I think what we'll do is when we do a favored soul build, I'll show another setup for gear that I think is nicer, and maybe we'll do a more developed character that has some more flexibility for that.
it's a good idea.
So one of the other set bonuses I wanted to go with was the Armaments of the Archons. This is one of the brand new set bonuses. It's going to give you PRR, MRR, and a plus 10% legendary bonus to your maximum hit points. I think that's really nice. That's going to save you on having to farm out the 3 augments to get the 10% bonus to hit points. And again, that gets us up to the 2400 that we were able to get to. In addition to that, I also did a 5-piece Forbidden Knowledge set. That's going to get us Profane stats, Profane Universal Spell Power, and Profane PRR. Some of the gear that I used for that was the Lightning Railworkers boots. Was looking for the Insightful Con Nair as well as the Electric Absorb, Electric Resist, the Crystalline Wristlet, which is going to give us Insightful Charisma. We're going to boost our Charisma up for our Turn Undead ability. Quality Will saves, Insightful Wizardry, get us some more spell points. Um, the Mystic Monocle, which is a Charisma item. We're not really going to get anything from the UMD. As a first life character, you could invest in UMD. You don't have a lot of skill points though. Um, I just don't see myself really investing heavily that way.
Hey,
But
Greg, real quick, could you? I don't know if you can pull up the wisdom version of that. I don't know if that's worth I don't know where we're getting our 14 wisdom, but I almost would think that the. Let me see if I can find it real quick on the wiki just to tell you what it is. But I think there is because I think that gives an extra bonus that might be worthwhile to have.
sure.
Give me a sec. I'll pull it up real quick here. You can keep talking. I'll give me that. I'll give you a second to.
The Eyes of Enlightenment.
Yeah, that's what it is. Pull it up real quick. Because I think the legendary ones give you. Let me see here.
They give a unique ability called Temperance of
Temperate the
Spirit.
spirit. That's what
Yep.
I was looking. Yep, that's what I was thinking. I don't know if we're getting that anywhere else or not, but
We are not getting Temperance of Spirit at the moment, and
okay.
Temperance of Spirit is going to give you a bonus based on your religious lore feats to your defensive stats.
Yeah, so that would be another 20 quality bonus to PRR there. So just something to point out. Because we could, I mean, technically, if you had the plus 14 charisma augment somewhere, maybe in a bag, or you were able to find one or have a guildie give you one, that would be a way to
Yeah,
still
that's a
keep
great
your
call.
charisma higher and get some extra PRR.
We're just going to augment it for now.
Okay.
The nice thing about the new content is you can get those 14 stat augments to drop um, even if you're not running on Reaper. Yeah, so that's actually a really good point. So that got us up to 268 PRR. So great change title. And so with boost, that's going to bring us up to just under 330 PRR while we're boosting. So that's quite nice actually. And then obviously as you build out your Reaper points, if you build out the Grim Barricade tree, you're going to be able to boost that even higher. You'll get it up over 400 easily. All right, so we got 10 minutes left. Sorry, I'm going fast here. So at least I feel we're going fast now. The Legendary University Sentry's Helm is going to give you natural armor, shield bonus, resistance, insightful
Insightful
fort,
fort. Yeah, overall great helmet.
I don't think you're getting a ton. I mean, at an AC of 228, it's helpful if you're running Legendary hard, but as soon as you start stepping into Reaper, that AC is not going to mean a whole lot. The resistance is nice for your saves, and the insightful fort. You'll see our fortification we got up to 332, which is really nice to not get crit on. The one augment I did want to call out on this item is the Essence of Pomora's Memento. You grab Pomora's Memento out of the Hunt raid, and it's a ring, and you can trade it in for a 5% insightful spell crit chance. So if you run Hunter Be Hunted, one of those drops, get yourself to the Soul Forge, make this augment. It's going to make a nice difference. I mean, it's an extra
5%. Yeah.
yeah, an extra 5% chance. So 1 out of 20 heal spells are now going to crit when they wouldn't have before.
And Flame brought up a good point. And we don't think we got to the gloves yet, but yeah, but Flame
Oh
is
yeah,
ahead
yeah.
of us on the
So
gloves there.
so we did have the dark 6-fingered glove. This does have a sacred 14 bonus on it. It does have temperance of belief to give you the MRR for your religious lore feats. Um, you're not getting a ton more out of that. This also has Dark Discorporation on it as a clicky, and that clicky is another way, just like Dreamscape, for you to avoid taking damage and to ditch aggro. Um, Again, I'm going to post this up. The only reason I went with the University plate mail, helm, and the cloak, this cloak is also a raid item. It's one of like 3 raid items that I have on the build. I tried to keep it slim on the raid items. Was basically to get you that Armament of the Archons set bonus. Um, I'm not going to go through the filigrees. There's a lot there. If you want a breakdown on that, I can provide that in the forum post. Um, just in general, what we're doing here is we're boosting our spell power with Soul Weaver, boosting it with the Splendid Cacophony, and building out some more defensive stats, both with con, PRR, things like that. So let's. Do you have any other feedback on gear before I move on?
Yeah, I think that makes sense for what I would do with yeah, what was it, the Clouded Dreams you had in the other ring slot? Is that intent?
Yeah, Clouded Dreams from Killing
Okay.
Time.
Yep.
This gives you an exceptional universal spell lore and exceptional universal spell power. Um, so let's look at our spell power. And these numbers in the builder are a little bit deceptive. It's going to say over 1,300 positive spell power. That's inclusive of the bonuses you're getting from the metamagic feats. So on your character sheet, it's going to show somewhere around 700, I believe. Let me toggle these.
Yeah, so that makes sense if you've got Maximize and Power, all the other ones we have selected. So
Empower 75, Intensify 75, Maximize 150, so that's 300, so 375 at most. So yeah, sorry, it's going to show around 926, and then you have your metas on top of that. For your spell crit chance, for your positive spells, we got that up to a 54% chance. One thing that I did want to mention quick, let me pull up the enhancements again. The capstone in Radiant Servant is every 5th wisdom spell you cast um, has maximum healing and a 50% chance to crit. The nice thing about this ability is if you are going to go to the capstone, you're probably taking the aura. The ticks of the aura actually count towards this in order to charge this ability, but they don't expend it. So after 4 ticks of your aura, the next healing spell that you cast is going to be an automatic critical with these stats because you'll be at 104% chance to crit. So that's actually really nice. And it's going to deal its maximum healing dice. So really big heals out of that. Some folks prefer to do that. I don't think there's enough ways to boost your caster level. Otherwise, Cure Focus would have a lot more appeal to it. As it is now, you're already maxing out your caster level as much as you can on your cure spells, so uncapping the caster level doesn't have any practical effect. There's just not enough divine augmentation items. Um, I guess as a passing note, that's another thing I would mention about your gear on a cleric. There are items in the game that will boost the caster level of any of your divine spells. Um, you can deal additional damage with that, or in this case, do additional healing. You can boost it by at max 2. I didn't go out of my way to equip those items. I just don't think they're worth it. Um, the other thing to look at here is your positive spell crit multiplier, and when you do crit, you're going to get a 104% increase on your healing. Yeah, Flame brings up a good point. So the cloak that we're using has a lot of DC bonuses on it. It has quality and sacred. I just don't think you're gonna. I don't think you're gonna get there on a first life character. So all right, we have 5 minutes left. Title, no rush, no pressure. But I want to ask you, what are your absolute must-have cleric spells? And maybe what we'll do is we'll start at level 9 and see how far we make it.
Okay. All right. So if
So
you go on to level 9, I think my one of my favorite level 9 is Divine Wrath, because not only does it deal a little bit of damage, but it also heals everybody in that aura too. So it's I mean it gives you everything that you're looking for.
yeah.
Now, when I like to play around with my cleric, or a cleric that has a lot of past lives and some higher DCs, implosion is always a fun one. I mean, just running around just blowing everything up around you is always fun. You get that cool feeling like
We'll cover more cleric builds on this show, I'm sure. No problem
yeah,
with that.
absolutely. But yeah, but I would say, yeah, my two favorites at level 9 are Divine Wrath and Implosion.
And I like True Res. Mass
Oh
Heal.
sure, yeah.
If anybody out there is listening, don't take Mass Heal. Mass Heal is garbage. It takes way too long to use. Use
Yep.
another spell in its place. Um, Devs, if you're listening, please make Mass Heal great again. It uses a lot of spell points, and it's just not worth the time it takes to cast.
Yeah, it's a 45-minute cast. So
Level 8, I do like Mass Death Ward. I do
yep.
like Death Pact. Death Pact
Yeah,
is
yeah,
a
yeah.
way, as long as you have diamonds on you, you can bring yourself back from the dead once. And
Hmm.
by the way, this ignores all your timers, so raid timers and also Reaper timers.
Yep, very important.
So it's really cool to have that. True Seeing Mass, pretty good. Um, I like Holy Aura.
Aura, I use it
Yep.
too. Yep, because it gives you the another sacred bonus, to a bunch of stuff.
To
So
your saves, yeah. Plus
yeah.
4 to your saves is nice. By the way, I keep Cure Moderate, Cure Serious, and Cure Critical all on the hotbar. These
Yep.
are easy to rotate through as masses. You're hitting the whole party. Other than your tank, your Cure Moderate and your Cure Serious are going to heal most of the party up to full.
And that's when you're not using your SLAs too. Keep that in mind. I would use your SLAs first, and then use the cure masses as needed. Then from there.
I'm just going to go a little faster here.
No,
Sorry.
you're fine. Yep. Yeah. No, that you're
So
you're filling in the stuff that I would anyway. So.
So I would take Mass Vom. That's just convenient. I do take Greater Resto. I don't really take Mass Resto. People normally call for Restos on a single target. Um, Main difference between Graders and Regulars is instead of just curing stat damage, you're gonna restore neg levels as well.
Yep.
Mass Protection. You don't have to take this because you're picking it up into Destiny, but I do like it as a mass version versus the individual cast. I take all the raised deads, keep them on my bar so I can rotate through, and then obviously spell resist.
Yep.
We have 2 minutes left. All right, so actually, I'm gonna finish fleshing this out. I'll post it on the forums. Please feel free to comment there. Last thing I'll leave you with is if you're a cleric, do you and the party a favor and make sure, in addition to heal, that you take the harm spell. You're going to have undead people in the party, and some of your undead friends can actually res party members as undead, so heal is very helpful in those instances. Also, we already told you about the Gibbers Blade. If you Gibbers, cast DI on yourself, you can actually keep yourself going with harm while healing the party through a tough moment. So it's actually really good.
Neat trick to have up your sleeve, definitely.
Yeah. So, all right. It is 9:29. We are going to end the stream there. Title, thank you so much for coming on with me. I really
Absolutely, it was a
appreciate it.
blast. Yeah,
Thanks for hanging out, everybody who was here. Cozy, I don't know if there's anything special I have to do in order to hand the stream off to you, but hey, if you're here for the stream, stick around for Cozy. Okay, cool. All right, so I will end the stream here. Nacho, hey, thanks for streaming or thanks for watching with us. Um, Everybody, thank you for watching the first episode of Fixer Upper. If you have a build that you'd like to be fixed up, please go ahead and post it on the forum post. Griglock from Kyber. Look forward to running with you guys in game. Thanks again.
nice job, Greg. Take care.